I'm here at PrimeStaff Management Services to learn about the ways to protect the personal data of employees. I'll be speaking with the Managing Director, Mr. Ronald Lee. Hi Ronald, thank you so much for meeting with me. You know, my company is expanding now, so I'm really curious about personal data protection policies. As a recruitment agency, how do you handle the data of your potential candidates and those of your employees?
As a recruitment agency, we have been established for the last 22 years. So we have access to many data over the years from candidates, clients, and people we have to deal with. And we have up to now active data no less than 50,000. We purge them regularly on a 3-yearly basis on the assumption that some of those older data we have no need for them or we have no use for them or they are outdated, we remove them. The remaining data that we keep continue to be useful, and we do continual updating of this data. Now, for candidates who come by us, we always make it a point to tell them why we need to use the data. We also need to get their consent to use this data. We also need them to understand why we are asking for some personal information and how do we use them, how do we keep them, how do we protect them, how do we actually disseminate them to the relevant parties. For example, if you are looking for a job, I need to send them to a third-party client. I would then need to be able to share this confidentially with these clients. And some of the personal data that we collect includes these things here in the form: the name, the IC number, the address, email address. Yeah, correct. So they know what we need to gather and for what purpose. And behind this form here, we actually give a very compact and clear indication of why we collect this information. How do we use them? How do we keep them? And if they need to update them or if they want for some reason this data removed, how do they tell us and we will deal with it accordingly.
Oh, may I have a copy of this, please?
Yes, of course you can.
Thank you. And Ronald, you mentioned that you have got 50,000 active data. How do you manage so much data and how do you get your staff to comply with all the measures that you have in place?
Okay, we do have a very comprehensive IT system where we gather all the data, and also through this IT system we are able to decide how they are to be used. All our people are trained in terms of using the data and how it should be disseminated accordingly. We do have different level of people requiring different level of information. So we set this security system where they cannot go beyond what they are allowed to see or to use. And so the more senior you are, as a team lead, perhaps you will be able to see more, you access more. Otherwise, you don't access. And so there is a good IT system in place to ensure that all these data are appropriately used and disseminated only when needed. And of course, we also ensure that our people know how they are to be used, when to use them. And so we train our people regularly on how such data are to be used, especially people who join us, people who may have forgotten. So we do run regular coffee talks on a monthly basis. And within these coffee talks, we ensure that a few things are emphasized. Number one, our company vision, mission. Number two, we talk about the TAFEP policies. And then number three, of course, PDPA. And some of this information are what we use to train our people, right? So this is a PA policy within the organization that we introduced, and we use this to train our people and to make sure they understand how such information are used.
So it's a step-by-step guide of what to do if somebody were to walk in.
Well, this flowchart really is a very complete picture of the entire recruitment process, and it guides our consultants on which aspect of the work when they are dealing with personal data, they've got to be aware of. So everybody knows, from client, candidates, and our consultant. They know at which point what information can be released, what information cannot be released, how do they release them, and how do they ensure that such information are appropriately used when disseminated.
And you've thought out all the different scenarios that may happen. What if somebody signed on a form? What if somebody doesn't sign on a form? What happens if the job application is successful? What happens if it's not? So everything is clearly mapped out.
And this is used on our regular coffee talks to ensure that people understand in a comic sense the actual importance of this data protection. Why don't I show you around now, around the office, so that you get a clearer picture of what we do and how we go about this entire process.
Okay.
Come, this way. So this is where we hold our interviews. This is where the people come by for jobs and we put them into rooms where there is more privacy.
And I see there's a lot of interviews going on every day. So how do you ensure that everything goes smoothly when you're trying to implement all these data protection policies? How do you overcome the difficulties?
Okay, we understand that this is a very important aspect of doing business, and because that it's come into law, we have to really make sure that whatever we put out first meet the statutory requirement, and two, to meet the needs of the people dealing with us. And so we spend a lot of time going around understanding what this whole thing entails. We attend courses, we go for training, we send our people for talks and to learn. Then we come back, we put what we know, what we learn together, and then we over time develop what we call our own internal PDPA policy. We have appointed our own personal data protection officer, who is also our IT expert, and he monitors closely the information flow, the movements, the securities, and so on.
Thank you so much, Ronald. You have been
You're
so
welcome.
helpful. Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. Let me
Thank
show
you for
you
having
out.
me.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.